We just had this conversation. Oh, all right. Am I bringing it in?
You are. Okay.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome in to another edition of Batter Up, part of the Sports Insanity Network. I am Mike Rifkin, joined Mark Goldopsky, Halpern, Danny Boy Reginald, Dan Ryan's, Tom Roussos. Gentlemen, we're getting closer to baseball season. How we doing?
Doing good. Glad that a little hiccup has just ended. So now the show's going to be perfect.
Yeah, it should be great. All right. Last week we did the Western Division preview. Today we'll talk about the Centrals. But we'll start. This was the first real week of spring training games. So overall, thoughts on the new pitch clock?
I think we're going to see the issues we have with it very, very fast. Max Scherzer being the point, I'm using his reference because it was the only one really brought up, that he had a balk called on him because he pitched too quickly. And that means the batter's eyes weren't up on him. I think they're not ready for this at the MLB level, in my opinion, but it's not going to be far out.
Wait, was it because he pitched too quickly or because he pitched late?
No, he pitched too quickly. They said the batter did not have enough time to become at ready when stepping in the box, meaning before his eyes had met the pitcher. That was the original safety rule.
Yeah, but because he did have another violation because he threw the pitch late.
Yes.
So, I just wanted to clarify.
There were two.
I didn't see the game.
Yeah, so that had to do with the batter stepping out and the whole concept of that, which actually nullified a double play ball, which regular season there'd be problems.
Yeah. No, this pitch clock is great. I don't care what anyone says. This is absolutely revolutionary. There's going to be kinks, but you got to work it out during spring training. That's what it's for. And look, beginning of the season in March, April, you got to work it out then too. By June, they should be used to this. I don't care what anyone says. They should be used to this. And if they can't get used to it, that's on the player, not on the rule.
Well, yeah, I think this is the biggest change we're going to see to this sport maybe in our lifetime. It's gigantic. I'm very excited to see what this game is going to be like because I do think there's been of a pacing problem in the MLB. It's not every player, but every game, but it happens. I'm excited to see them try to change this. However, I will say, I got to say, postseason games, I don't want this happening. And I'm ninth innings, I don't think I want it happening either. Maybe after the seventh, too. It's going to depend once I see it in full action. Where I want it to end, but I want it in the game for sure. I just don't know how far I want to go because I feel like the ninth inning. Do we really want to rush the bottom of the ninth? If Bryce Harper, that
football, but in football, they still have the play clock. In basketball, they still have the shot clock. So what's different about what they're doing in baseball late in games?
Fair comparison.
Yeah, I agree that I want it in the game. I'm just a little worried. How much is it going to take away in those big moments of baseball where, there's sometimes you get a lot of enjoyment in the stare downs in the postseason and that kind of stuff. And I'm wondering that elimination from the game, is it going to feel too rushed at those points? But throughout the majority of the game, I do want this pitch clock and I'm all for it.
And we've seen some spring training games that usually go 4 hours with all the pitching changes and other shenanigans that goes on in spring training. They're going 2.5 hours, which is a sight to be seen. But I like it too. I'm not going to deny that. I just don't want a situation of what happened with the Red Sox and Braves where time was called and that's how the game ends. But again, this is spring training for everyone, so everyone's going to have to, like Dan said, get used to this. That includes players and the umpires. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out.
They knew this was coming.
So, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think you're right. Everyone knew this was coming. But like you said before, there are kinks that are going to have to be worked out.
And in the NBA, let's face it, the shot clock had made that sport way better. I mean, if there was no shot clock in the NBA, would that be as fun to watch? Maybe half as fun.
It made Julius Randle's shot more fun the other night. Let's say that the shot clock did that.
Fair enough. It was a terrible shot.
It was a terrible shot, but hey, it went in.
All that matters is it went in.
Yeah. The pitch clock is the new thing. That's what it is. Just like interleague play was the new thing, and you won the All-Star game. It was you got home field advantage for the World Series. This is the new thing, and we're gonna have to get used to it. We're gonna have to go along with it. There's gonna be many problems in the beginning, but hopefully, what Dan is saying, by June, they should be all used to it. That's 4 months plus a month and change of spring training. I think that's fair and reasonable. I just think there's a few big areas, one that Tom had said, like bottom of the ninth, but you can't use it for half a game and not the last inning. So I think there's a little bit to tweak, but it's going to be in the game.
Yeah, and it's going to work in what they want, which is shortening the length of the games.
And also, don't have lag in MLB The Show when you play it, or you're going to be walking the bases loaded and walking them all in.
Wait, is it in the video game too?
I don't know. I haven't got it. Doesn't come out.
That'd be hilarious if it is. That'd be.
They put the extra runner on.
I'm now
second
very curious on that.
Yeah.
Because what changes the show? Oh, we got the pitch clock in here too. Okay.
If you have bad internet, you're just gonna walk everybody.
Yeah.
The Astros were on ESPN the other day, and Dusty Baker was all about the pitch clock. So, saying one of his pitches, I don't remember which one. I think it was Luis Garcia, who likes to do a little shimmy. He goes, he's changing up everything to get in control to make sure he gets the pitch in under the 20 seconds. But all right, we'll see how the pitch clock plays out. But that should be a fun feature, as well as the pizza box bases, according to Alex Core.
It's all very exciting, honestly. That the bases, the pitch clock. I really want to see this season more than any other season the past few years, just because I want to see this game now. I want to see everyone steal too. That's fun.
Sure, bringing back the stolen base.
So. Let's see some big guys steal 5-10 bases. Let's do it.
Someone call Mo Vaughn and see what he's up to.
Oh my God!
Although I think he's a real estate guy now in Brooklyn.
Yeah, he's probably making good money.
Yeah. Right. So on to the Central Divisions. I'll start in the American League, where last year the standings looked like this. The Cleveland Guardians won the AL Central. I'm going to say it was because of the new name and the power of that. They were 92-70. The Chicago White Sox were 81-81. The Minnesota Twins, who were in first place most of the year, 78-84. The Detroit Tigers went 66-96, and the Kansas City Royals were 65-97. Man, the Royals. Key additions each team. The Guardians signed Josh Bell, formerly of the Nationals and the Padres and the Pirates. The White Sox, Dan's guy, Andrew Benintendi, came over. Mike Clevenger, who's currently being investigated for domestic abuse, and Elvis Andrus. For the Twins, Dan's other guy, Joey Gallo, Michael Taylor, Carlos Correa, Christian Vasquez, and Pablo Lopez. For the Tigers, Nick Maton, and Matt Vierling. And the Royals, Jordan Lyles, and bringing back Zach Greinke.
Yeah.
So,
farewell tour for him.
Well, speaking of farewell tours, let's just dive into this one. Miguel Cabrera announced he'll retire after the season. This is the farewell tour I'm excited for.
Yeah, Miguel Cabrera has been a fantastic ball player and fantastic mentor to many young Tigers, Marlin players before he was moved around. This is the way he deserves to go out, and wouldn't it be more fitting for him to do it Miggy like with a 300 batting average at least? Damn.
I mean, I would love for Miguel Cabrera, not necessarily to, like I don't know how he's an older ball player, so I don't know how well he's going to do throughout the season. He'll give us a lot of good moments and stuff for sure. But all I want to see out of Cabrera is just absolutely handling himself the best he can with grace, being a good teammate. Here and there, you give us some nice home runs, some nice hits. But his milestones are pretty much done with. So all I want at this point is just to handle himself with grace throughout this entire retirement tour. And whatever the teams give you, just embrace it. There's going to be ceremonies across Major League Baseball for this guy, future Hall of Famer. Just enjoy the ride, man. And I want the Tigers to win. Like, can they put out a winner here? Can he lead to some type of, big time run for the Tigers? They don't have to make the playoffs, but certainly something to wake this team up, because their time's kind of running out for some of these young players and Javi Baez.
Yeah, I mean, what can be said about Miggy that hasn't been said? He's just the true legend. He's on the same stratosphere as Albert Pujols we just saw retire. It's going to be a great farewell tour. The only problem, like we said, is I don't trust the Tigers to compete at all, quite frankly. And Javi Baez, we all know what I think about him. I think he stinks, and I don't think he's going to be able to carry that team. I think they were like last in runs last year, so it's a depressing season for him to go out. But if you're a Tigers fan, you're looking forward to one thing this year, and that's watching Miggy one last season. And I just want him to stay healthy. I want to see him play, and that's it. I don't even care what he hits. I just want to see the man out on the field, and maybe give him some of those special balls they gave Albert Pujols. Please, let's see some. I want to see him hit some big dingers down the stretch too, because he did. I want to see it. So. Other than that, though, I don't trust him. The Tigers, I really wish they could light a spark. It's a slightly winnable division. We're going to talk about it, but I don't trust them.
I'm with you guys. I want the Tigers. The Tigers are going to be a sentimental pick, like because you want to see this guy go out on kind of like what you wanted to see with Albert Pujols last year in the Cardinals. It was okay. If one team's going to make a run in the National League, if it's not the Mets, I want it to be the Cardinals because Albert could go out on top, even though his legacy is already what it is. Yadier Molina as well, but there's a part of me that just wonders if they go to Miggy at the trade deadline and say, listen, we're not in it. Do you want to go to a winner or do you want to finish your career here? I don't think it would happen, but it's just something to think about.
And if he even said yes, God, the riots in Detroit would be worse than Philadelphia.
But after the season, you sign the one-day contract, you retire, and
right.
But I don't know. One of the best pure hitters of all time. The last guy to ever. Yeah, he was the last one to win the Triple Crown.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, our generation.
I had to make sure I was right on that because I know Judge was close this year. But
Luis Arias, right?
Just what a legend. Oh, me. But we'll see what the Tigers do. But we can wish, man. We can wish he could go to the playoff one more time. All right. Some other stuff. Mentioned Josh Bell at going to Cleveland. What kind of impact do we think that has?
Bell going over to Cleveland is going to make that infield a little bit more solid with Jimenez at short. You're not going to have Bell at second. You have Ramirez at third. You know, it's a solid infield. It's now an even more capable hitting team because the team didn't rely on home runs last year. They relied on doubles, triples.
They
and
were
bad
second
pitching.
to last in home runs last year. I think only
Yeah.
the Tigers hit fewer.
Right. Yeah. They weren't reliant on that. So Cleveland is a sleeper pick, but I think they repeat here.
Ooh. We get into predictions in a few
Yeah,
minutes.
I know.
Jump in the gun, false start. There we go.
Yeah. Danny Boy Reginald.
Bell, I mean, for first baseman, so that's huge. For the Guardians. And then another big thing, and we're already seeing it. He can pop that ball, man. Like that ball, he can drive it. And one of the things they didn't necessarily lack in power, but they didn't get as much as they would get if they have power hitter. And Bell, I think, is a certified power guy for sure. So you get that with him. He's a stud, man. I like the move. I like him fitting in this Guardians team. And, this instantly makes them better than what they were last year. If you think they get 92 last year, they'll probably get like 95 to 98 with his extra power production. And not only can he hit home runs, he can also hit doubles. He can get singles. He's just a run producer in general. So Bell's a really, really awesome pickup.
Yeah, as far as the impact Josh Bell is going to have, it's going to be gigantic because when I think of the Cleveland Guardians and I think of the two things they probably maybe lacked last year, it was power and like strong veterans on this team. They just got a veteran with power that's really, really good in Josh Bell. They also brought in, I forget, another veteran. What was his name? Mike Zunino. That might help too. I like bringing these veterans to this young team that just way overachieved last year.
Yeah.
I think is a good recipe. And we saw Andres Jimenez overachieve. Their rookie Stephen Kwan was fantastic last year. This team's exciting, and I love the pitching too. And adding Josh Bell is only going to make them better. They're in a division where they can beat up on the Royals and Tigers all they want, I think. So I think things are looking bright for this team. And as far as the other thing goes, we haven't mentioned Jose Ramirez is a complete stud, top 5 player in the league, and he's had to carry this lineup, and he can. But now when you add a guy like Josh Bell down in this lineup too, we don't even need him as much to carry this lineup, and he's still going to. So I think this team is going to be great this year, unless all their young guys had fluky years and regress.
Exactly.
Which is possible. You can never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Remind me, is Rosario still on that team?
Rosario and Jimenez up the middle,
and I mean, you guys know Ahmed very well. Like this guy, he can hit too. He can get on
he's
base.
Coming into his own as well, and it's a good growth. Andres Jimenez was an all-star last year. It was solid. But Tom, I'm glad you mentioned Jose Ramirez because now he finally has some protection in that lineup. Because even when he's hitting third and we don't know who's behind him, he still hits 300 or 290, whatever he hit.
Exactly.
And I know you say he's a top 5 player, and I agree with you. But I still think he's underrated because he's in Cleveland.
He is underrated. That's
He's underrated because he's in Cleveland. But but the lineup with Josh Bell should be better. You mentioned the pitching. Shane Bieber, who never confuse him for Justin. He said that with the players only jerseys. The tall, lanky kid McKenzie, he's got great stuff. And Terry Francona is one of the best managers in baseball still.
Yeah, and this allows him to get away from like the nerdy front office dealings type of thing, where he doesn't necessarily have to use the small ball as much. because now he has a lot of pop in the lineup, and that's huge for baseball teams.
Yeah, and yeah, they can hopefully they score some runs this year. The White Sox finished 81 and 81. I think you could put them as last year one of the bigger disappointments in all baseball. But a big reason, bad years from Lucas Giolito and Lance Lynn. Which one's more likely to bounce back?
Lance Lynn. I think he's going to have a strong season.
Okay. Tom?
I'm probably going with Lance Lynn too. I think they're going to have similar years again. But when I was reading into it a little bit, it looked like he was dealing a little more with injury last year, and that could maybe explain a little bit more of his issues. So I would go with Lance Lynn.
To me, it has to be 1,000% Giolito. I think Giolito is another one that was on the uppity up, 19, 20, 21, 2020 being a very short season, but still, I expected a lot from him, and he kind of gave us a dud. So I expect a bounce back from him. But let's be real. And you can get on Tony La Russa, and look, he even admitted he was not himself. He's not the same manager he used to be. He admitted it, and I'm happy that he did. This White Sox team is way better on paper than they played.
Yes.
And I believe that they completely underachieved. I think if they played up to the level that they were supposed to, they would have made the playoffs and probably would have won the division. They weren't very far off for a while. But then they just fell off, and it was a disaster at the end. But I think that if they play up to what they're supposed to, expectation-wise, they should be fine.
I agree with you, Dan. I thought they would win this division last year because they are talented. They have enough guys in that lineup and rotation who are solid. They have a really good roster. So for them to disappoint last year, it was tough. But listen, whoever bounces back, if it's Lynn, if it's Julie, if it's both, combine that with the year Dylan Cease had last year, you got a top three in that rotation that's as good as anybody in baseball. So I'm not saying they'll do it, but I'm buying the talent of the White Sox. Yeah. And it's hard not to buy it.
I think they just got to stay healthy. And I mean, I trust they got some amazing players. I mean, Eloy Jimenez, Manny Grandal, Luis Robert. They got a great bullpen. They got the talent on paper, like we're all saying. It's just got to see them stay healthy and do it over the full season. And they got as good a chance as anybody to win this division.
Speaking of staying healthy, I mean, we could talk Carlos Correa's want with the Twins, or we could talk Byron Buxton, who played 92 games last year, and a career high was 140 in 2017. But when this dude's on the field, he's as dynamic as anybody. Over under 100 games played for Byron Buxton.
Under.
I got to go under just because I get really sad talking about Byron Buxton because of just the injuries. He's been plagued his entire career. I can't trust him to play 100 games any season. I don't draft him in fantasy for this reason. I've been burned so hard taking Byron Buxton early.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want Byron Buxton on their fantasy team? He does everything.
For the hitter that he is, it's tough for me to say, but I would also say well under.
Okay. I'll take the under two, mainly because he has to prove he could stay healthy. All right, last one on the Royals, then we'll get into predictions. Bobby Witt Jr. hit 20 homers, 30 steals last year. Does he go 30-30 this year?
Yes. Bobby Witt is going to be the stud of studs this season. Watch out.
Will he have the wit to do it?
Oh, he's got daddy's wit. That's how he's going to do it.
I think he's one of the most bullish prospects in baseball right now. And if you're in a dynasty league and you're looking for a guy to build your team around, take him in like the early rounds. I know the team around him's not great right now, but he's got the talent to get you a lot of fantasy stats immediately. And they'll probably get better. The Royals are eventually going to contend, right? Eventually, they got to spend some money, get back in this thing. I mean, it's been a long time since 2016. We don't like thinking about that year. Or 2015.
You need to give the Royals time, but the one person you don't want to waste is Bobby Witt Jr. Not in the slightest. And I think that he'll have a 30-30 season. If not this season, definitely next season. But he'll probably do it this year. He's a dynamic hitter. I trust it that he'll do it. You know, this is all about growth for the Royals.
Yeah, the Royals haven't been relevant since 2015 or since the Lord song. I'm not sure which. But
yeah, they've been rebuilding, and you haven't seen a lot of progress. You would hope you've seen more progress, but they've got a lot of young. It's just got to click one of these years. That's really it. Sometimes it's tough.
I realized the other day Sal Perez is still there.
Wow.
He's the only one. Hosmer's gone. Alex Gordon's gone.
I mean, when I think of their pitching, I think of Brady Singer. I don't know who else is in the rotation. I don't know a lot about this team. It almost feels like the A's a little bit. Like I don't really know a ton, but they are way more ahead of than the A's are. That's a sad comparison.
I would say welcome to the new Baltimore Orioles from last year.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's a big thing to say.
Yep.
Because the Orioles were good.
Yeah, I know. I like this Royals team.
No. All right. All right. So let's put it where it is. Predictions on the AL Central.
Guardians to win it. All right, Guardians to win it. Twins better than the White Sox. Royals better than Tigers. Actually, I'm going to put the Royals above the Twins. So Guardians, White Sox, Royals, Twins, Tigers.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna go with the Tigers in last. I'm sorry, Miggy. I'm really sorry. Just last year was ugly. Then I'll put the Royals in fourth. Again, I would love to see them click. They could, but I got to see more of these players. I'll get the White Sox in third. They're gonna end up being just disappointing again. Twins in second. I think they've had a good enough offseason. And I'm still picking Guardians at first, and I'm surprised I am, but I just think they're ready to do it. They got too strong of a team.
I say the White Sox win the division. I think the team got better. And hopefully new management, more rejuvenated players, they'll get the job done. Guardians second. It's a tough one for the third. It's gonna be close. I really think the Twins ultimately have the better team between the Royals, the Tigers, and the Twins. So I'll say the Twins will be in third place. And I think it's going to be another one of those, like, who has the better record by a game in the end of the day type of thing, you know, the way they were last year between the bottom two teams. So I'll just say for the heck of it, KC and then Detroit. And it sucks for me to say that because, you know, again, I love the way Mickey plays.
Mm-hmm.
It just stinks that he has to use his final seasons with a bullcrap organization that they have over there.
Yeah, I'm going to take the White Sox to win. I just think they're too talented to not be as bad as they were a year ago. I'll take the Guardians in second. I do think the Guardians are a wild card team. I'll say it like that. Then I think you're going Twins, Royals, Tigers. So I think we're all in the same loop of 3, 4, and 5. It's just we're split on Guardians, White Sox.
Yeah.
I say it mainly because the Guardians of the Galaxy movies might be a little overrated, but you know, and the fact that the Guardians didn't play off on that's upsetting to me, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, now I do have to head out. I do have a show to do.
Dan, before you go, who wins the NL Central?
Cardinals.
Cardinals, okay. All right.
Good pick.
I'll leave it at that.
All right.
Take care,
Thanks,
Danny.
Dan.
Peace.
Take care.
All right.
And there were 3.
And now we're down to the final 3. So we are going to go into the NL Central, where Dan just said the Cardinals will repeat 93 and 69 last year, followed by the Brewers, who, let's be real honest, completely collapsed. 86 and 76. The Cubs are 74 and 88. And the Pirates and Reds were both 62 and 100. So you were so close, Pirates and Reds, to not losing triple digits. Before we dive in, I want to dive in. Mark, we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago with the Corbin Burns stuff on the Brewers. And I wonder this, as before we go into breaking everything down here, is the trade deadline affected them last year, whether it was the Hader deal and they didn't add an impact bat. Now with the Corbin Burns conversation, are we in a position where maybe the Brewers are just, I don't want to say free fall, but it feels like the players and organization aren't on the same page?
Sounds also like an NHL team you discussed the other day. We're called the Coyotes.
I mean, they're a whole nother conversation, but yes.
But yeah, just to make a shout out to Breakaway Bandits there. The whole Brewers organization needs to take a quick health day check and get back to work, because what happened last year to a very promising Brewer team looked like basically a demolition of the legs and everything. Everything went to nothing. Now you have this Corbin Burns problem where you argue with him over X amount of dollars in arbitration and try to pin it on him at his fault. I mean, MLB picked him as the number one pitcher in baseball. I had a lot to say about that. I wasn't fully agreed on it, but he's definitely in the top 10. Don't get me wrong. I think now it's time for Corbin Burns to either say, well, either I force a trade, in which then I can only tell you there's only one team that has pieces that will trade for him, or he forces them to get his outright release. And I don't think they do that. I figured they would rather sit him and pay him and then let a team deal with him next year than just letting him go as being what MLB has ranked him as.
Yeah, the rumors, I mean, I think it would be a shame, because I think, once again, the NL Central is sort of winnable. I know the Cardinals are the better team, but this isn't, it's not like you're dealing with the Astros in your division. The Brewers needed to be fixing this team more in the offseason. I don't think they did, honestly. I don't think they spent the money they needed to try to get on the exact level as the Cardinals. I like the team as it is. I love Corbin Burns, but why does it feel like they should be going in a little bit harder right now than, if you're mid-season and you're looking really out of this race, there is the chance that what Mark said, he might try to force a trade and you're going to lose your best player. And this is going to be you're going to be the Pirates soon. Try not to be the Pirates. I think they should have done more this offseason. I'm kind of upset at the Brewers overall. And if they end up trading and cleaning house, I mean, it's not like the Brewers have been all that successful the past 10 years. It's not like they have a ring or anything to show for, their past 2 years. It's kind of it would be a sad ending if they just blow it all up in the near future, like this year or next year. So we got to see what happens. They got to be able to take advantage of the crappier division they're in too. I mean, 86 and 76 isn't terrible, but when you figure the division they're in and you look at how many times they probably beat the Cubs, Pirates, and Reds, then you realize that, okay, they're probably not on the level as, the Mets, Phillies, Braves, or the Dodgers, Padres, and we'll see what happens there. But you know what I mean? So I really don't know if they're going to be, they might get in this purgatory of, we're going to miss the wild card by 2 games again because we just couldn't push ourselves over the limit a little bit in the offseason.
all of these smaller market teams want to be the Rays, where the Rays are just able to sell off pieces, but they know the prospects and they are able to reload. And they do it for years and years, and they get out of deals when they have to. My thing with the Brewers is you had Josh Hader there, and I think Hader's actually under contract for another year.
Yeah.
In San Diego, at least. You didn't have to move him.
No.
And that really turned everything upside down because we're in this race, but we're trading our closer and we don't have this or this. It just doesn't make sense.
Well,
now,
I think that's
you don't
sorry,
want to pay
Mike.
the guy. Maybe you trade him in the winter time and then we go from there. But
Sorry.
I talk a lot about homegrown players and paying homegrown players. It gives a different feel and morale to not only the team, but the fan base. And it's like, okay, we drafted, developed. I have a connection to this guy, but when you just, okay, we're going to move off and then wipe our hands clean, it's a little bit different story. But it's hard to watch, especially when a team is as good as the Brewers, because they have as good of a big three as anyone too. When you're talking Burns, Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta when he's healthy. But it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. The good thing for Brewer fans is they still have Bernie Brewer, and they still have the sausage race.
Yeah,
But
sausage race, cool.
So, Tom, as you mentioned, they did a couple of things here this offseason. William Contreras, the Braves catcher, they acquired him. Jesse Winker from Seattle, and they just signed Luke Voigt to a minor league deal.
Well, you know what I think about William Contreras, because he stole Edwin Diaz's walk-up music, so I think he sucks. So.
Well, his brother Wilson's now on the Cardinals. So.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Hey,
But,
maybe we could have the
baseball-wise,
first MLB trade brother for brother. There we go.
And I didn't realize actually Jesse Winker left Seattle. I didn't even know that actually.
So
And that was
had
after
to look
leaving the
this up.
Reds.
It happened right before the winter meetings. It was Jesse Winker for Colton Wong, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And that's a pretty stand-up trade. I mean,
Yeah.
both have equal presence on the field, both same style bats. Winker, I think, is a better hitter, though.
Wong, I think, is a better defender. So there you go.
So watching him,
it's
from the
offense
Reds
for
going
defense.
So, yeah. So it's an even trade.
Yeah. So then you have the Cubs, who were really active. Jameson Tyone, Dansby Swanson, Cody Bellinger, Trey Mancini, and Tucker Barnhart among their key additions. For the Pirates, Andrew McCutchen's back in Pittsburgh. Would have been nice as a fourth outfielder on the Mets, but I'll digress. Carlos Santana, Rich Hill, and Vince Velasquez.
Wow.
I'll say good for Rich Hill to keep it going.
Couldn't they get him on a better team? I'm sorry.
Oh, he'll be traded at the deadline. Come on,
Yeah,
Tom.
Rich deserves some respect. He is a legend. I love Rich Hill. But honestly, the Pirates and Cubs had a better offseason than the Brewers. Maybe that's why when I was reading it, I was like, oh, come on. They really didn't do it. I mean, the Pirates and Cubs, I think, added better pieces. And they're both, I think, going to be better records next year. I don't know if I can say that about the Brewers.
Mm-hmm. And the Reds' key addition was Will Myers. So there's the offseason. But
the Reds are scary bad. Maybe they'll prove me wrong.
But they're rebuilding and towards something.
Yeah, exactly. And the Pirates were rebuilding for a long time, and I think they still are, but they've finally made a little tiny bit of headway. Would you agree?
I don't disagree. They have some players. Keep Brian Hayes can play. O'Neal Cruz could play.
O'Neal Cruz,
Yeah.
the player to watch this year.
Like the dude is a cannon for an arm. He can hit a little bit. He can hit a lot,
He can hit a lot.
but he can hit it a long way. And he's like 6'7".
5'9", that didn't get me anywhere, so I'll say.
I mean, the thing about the Pirates that I find interesting is they have these young guys, yet they have a guy like Brian Reynolds who's been so good, but he doesn't want to be there anymore. And there's only so much more a player that good can take of losing before they say, I'm going to walk the plank here. Pirate joke.
Yes.
That was a good one.
But all right. So which one of these two guys is more likely in the MVP conversation? I say this because I remembered the commercial they did. But we're talking Christian Yelich, we're talking Cody Bellinger.
Ooh.
Well, you got, I hate to say it this way, getting old and up and coming. Okay. Cody Bellinger to me is still up and coming. Christian Yelich is just getting old. I think Cody Bellinger is going to have one hell of a resurgence year to numbers we saw back around to 2017 and stuff like that before things started getting bad for him. And he bats around 260, 265, 25 home runs, 80 RBIs. He's going to have a hell of a year.
Okay.
So
in this question, I would probably go Cody Bellinger because I think he probably has the higher ceiling to get those, big numbers, But I will say, I mean, the past 2 years of Cody Bellinger have been more than just a slump. They've been really horrific. And that I know people, I was one of them, 2020 or 2019, this was a guy you drafted in the fantasy, like in the first round, and, he hit like 165 after that year. And some people are just so scarred from him from fantasy, they're never going to touch him. In real life, it's a different story. He can get it going again for sure. And I think he's got the higher ceiling. He's a lot younger than Christian Yelich. So I would pick him. Do I think it's going to happen? Is he going to bounce back? I really couldn't tell you just because the last 2 years, like I said, have just been scarring.
I think Bellinger will bounce back. I think the wind at Wrigley will help him a couple of times. I think, too, the pressure of not having to be the guy. I know he didn't have to be the guy in LA, but he also was hitting 8th, 9th when he was really scuffling. I think being out of the pressure cooker that is Los Angeles can be beneficial for him. It has to be Christian Yelich because I don't know how else the Brewers are going to – if the Brewers don't have Christian Yelich perform at a peak level, I don't know what to expect out of the Brewers. I know the pitching's good, but I need Christian Yelich to drive in 85 to 100 runs this year. I need him to play this year and not be bothered by the back or the hamstring or this or that. If you're the Brewers, you need Christian Yelich because you have invested so much in Christian Yelich.
yeah, and unfortunately, I think Christian Yelich is starting to realize that his place in Major League Baseball is slowly dropping, and what he was expecting on a contract renewal will not be anywhere near what he's thinking because his play has been so riddled.
They should see what Ryan Braun's doing.
Oh, God. Another 3-year great who went to nothing.
Yeah. All right.
Right.
So question 2, we talk a lot about the Mets, Dodgers, Phillies, Braves. How do we stack the Cardinals in here in the National League?
It's very, very hard. When you look at what the Cardinals had added was Wilson Contreras. They didn't add like the Mets did. The Mets refortified. And that's what you do after a round in Access and Allies. You refortify. This doesn't work for you, you build up for the next one, and that's what Steve Cohen is doing. However, the Cardinals weren't 93-69 for the wrong reasons. They're a fine, damn good ball club with great pitching, great fielding, and this is a team that can win 100 games this year, if not more. I think when you want to if you want to call where you want to stack them up, they're at the top of the NL. They are the number one right now. Look, and this is coming from a diehard Mets fan. I know the Mets are going to be there, but I just think the Cardinals, for some reason, are hungrier. I think it's the Mets' job to prove it wrong.
I love the Cardinals too. I think they're going to win this division. They always tend to. I mean, for the most part, they got a strong team, top to bottom. They never let you down. This organization, for the most part, it was a disappointing end last year. Also, they get to play in a division that's weaker. They get to beat up on some teams that got a little bit better. As far as how many teams in the NL I think are better than the Cardinals, I think there's definitely a few teams I would take over them outright. So I don't know, but I think they're up there. I would say maybe there's 4 teams in the NL I would take better than them.
All right, well, let me rephrase this, Tom. Would you be surprised if they're in the World Series as the NL representative?
No, because they're just that kind of organization where I expect really consistent stuff. But I would take probably Padres, Dodgers, Mets, Braves ahead of them, and then that would probably be it. So I guess I'd put them at 5. I wouldn't put the Phillies over them, actually, which is funny. I think they're in the same area, but I like the Cardinals a little bit more than the Philly.
I think if the Cardinals get the starting pitch, listen, Adam Wainwright's 40, but you know what you're going to get out of Adam Wainwright. You kind of know what you're going to get out of Miles Michaelis. But what you get out of Jack Flaherty and Dakota Hudson could be massive for the Cardinals. Because if you get big things out of those guys, that changes the scenario of where they stack up in the National League. And yeah, then there's Steven Matz, but that's a whole nother conversation too. But
that's another whole bag full of cats.
But they have the best corner infield duo in baseball with Arenado and Goldschmidt. They have a guy named Lars Nootbaar, and I just like saying the name Lars Nootbaar. Tyler O'Neill is jacked. They always play great defense. That's one thing about the Cardinals.
Oh, yeah.
They'll defend with the best of them. And by the way, how lucky do you have to be to go from Yadier Molina to Wilson Contreras, where there's not a big drop off?
And that is the big key right there. Is that look, Yadi, one of the best to ever do it. Don't get me wrong, but Wilson Contreras gives you the same amount that Yadi does plus the defense. So it was pretty much the right signing.
Better bat too. Much better, more power. So it's the Cardinals. Do the Pirates or more likely to not lose 100 games, Pirates or Reds?
Pirates.
Yeah, definitely the Pirates.
Yeah, it's probably the Pirates. Sorry, Reds fans. At least you got the Bengals.
Yeah,
it's I think the Pirates they got a couple more pieces than the Reds. They're a couple years ahead in the rebuilding phase in the Reds. And what that means for the Reds is they're really bad because the Pirates are still a threat to lose 100 games. I think they might avoid it this year, though.
Okay, this is just going to be off topic for a minute. How do you feel about the McCutchen thing? I kind of like that, him going back there.
Again, another farewell tour. He's leaving on his home turf, and he won't go past a year.
Yeah, it makes me happy to see a guy that wants to go back to his team, where he has all his memories, and for one last year, despite the fact that they are bad, and I think that means a lot to the fans. There's a reason that guy is so beloved, not even just Pirate fans, but MLB fans, and I couldn't think of a better place for him to ride out his last year. So
If the Pirates want another reunion tour, they should call the Yankees on Garrett Cole.
No, that guy stinks. He gave up the most home runs in the major leagues last year.
Well, that's because Billy Crystal was talking before he was pitching each time.
All right. Did the Cubs do enough to make this a 3-team race in this division, or do we still think it's Cardinals, Brewers?
Oh, I think the Cubs did right this year. Adding Dansby Swanson, Cody Bellinger, Trey Mancini, Jameson Italian. They are obviously trying to show the fans that we might not be able to pay Steve Cohen type money, but we're not a poor team. And they went out and proved that this year. And with Seiya Suzuki coming into his second season, you have this impressive Cubs team on paper. Let's see what they can do on the field. But yes, I do think they're going to make this closer than it should be.
Yeah, I think the competitiveness is definitely going up. Do I think they can win it? The slow chance, but the competition is going to be there.
All right, let's go into it. How do we view the NL Central?
The NL Central goes something like this. You're going to have the Cardinals at the top, followed by the Cubs, followed by the Brewers, followed by the Pirates, followed by the Reds.
All right, I'm a little bit different. I'm going to keep the Cardinals to win. I'm going to put the Brewers in second. And then I will put the Cubs in third, Pirates fourth, Reds fifth, which might be literally last year. So I'm not giving you any new information.
I mean, the Pirates and Reds have the same record, so based on head-to-head, so I don't know how that went about, but I'm torn on Brewers Cubs. I'll give the slight edge to the Brewers unless the Cubs get Kyle Hendricks to pitch like Kyle Hendricks has pitched in the past. And then, because if they get Hendricks, Stroman, Tyone is pretty good, but it's not Burns, Woodruff, Peralta. And for the love of Jeebus, Brewers just find some form of offense. And we're talking about a team who could be in the wild card situation. Because I think if the Brewers can make the playoffs, whether it's as a wild card or as the division winner, they can have a Philly-esque run from last year. Their starting pitching's good enough, bullpen's good enough, Craig Counsell's a good enough manager. They just need to find a way to manufacture more runs. So everyone in Milwaukee drink a brew.
I think they do.
They do.
They definitely have their fair share.
They have brews, they have sausages, they got cheese heads.
You know what, guys?
Brats.
And they got Giannis.
Maybe we got to make a little trip to Milwaukee. The team is whatever, but the dogs and beer got me thinking.
Well, that. See,
Oh, and the slide.
You got to do the slide.
I do love that slide. I love when
Dude,
they
the
go
slide's
down.
amazing.
Did you see that one reporter they had go down the slide and he like crashed into the wall?
Yeah, he fractured a couple of ribs. I think he broke his hand. Oh,
Get Mike in a sausage. We'll see Mike run around the field.
I will go in the.
Well, let me tell you something. When I played
Get all,
Little
of
League,
SIM will agree to go in the sausage contest.
listen, let me tell you this. When I was in Little League, man, I was a stolen base machine, let me tell you.
Did they have the big bags?
No, they had the small ones.
Yeah, they were tiny.
That'll do it for this edition of Batter Up, part of the Sports Insanity Network. Check out this podcast, every other podcast, do Anchor, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com for great blogs, logs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Next week, we will preview the Beasts of the East.
Yeah.
Now, if you have questions you want answered, hit up the network Twitter at SInsanityReal, or is it SInsanityReal, something like that. You can hit us up on Facebook as well, or you can comment on this video below on our YouTube page, and we can bring it up as and answer some questions. But for Danny Boy, Reginald, Dan Rhines, Marco Lupsky, Halpern, Tom Roussos, I'm Mike Rifkin. Thank you for listening to Batter Up, part of the Sports Insanity Network. Have a